Duke, you suck.
You shut your mouth!
Welcome to the Duke You Suck podcast. And now, Duke Durango.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Duke You Suck podcast. I'm here with my friend, Dungeon alumni, Stampede alumni, PWA alumni, TNA alumni. He's done it all, ladies and gentlemen. The hotshot, Johnny Devine. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dirty One. It's a pleasure to be here. It's always fun to shoot the shit with you, man.
Man, it's so good to see you. It's been a really, really long time. And one thing I want to get out of the way real quick, and I don't know if I've ever expressed this enough. When I stopped wrestling, and I think it was in 2007, I was taking some time off there, and you flew home on your own nickel to work me in my last matches. And I don't know if I ever told you what an honor that was and how much respect that garnered from me. Like we always held each other in high regard, but we always had that Seinfeld-Newman thing going on. There was always, and I think honestly, I was thinking about it today. Why did we have that? And I honestly think it's because we were competitive. We both knew each other was, potentially could be the top guy, and we wanted that.
You were the top guy. You were the top guy.
I don't know, man. I think honestly, I was like, he had that high flying, man. He was the top guy.
And that's thank you. I appreciate that, and that's a little known fact for those watching at home. Is every once in a while I am philanthropical, but truth be told, that to me, like, okay, and this is so a lot of probably what we're going to talk about here will come down to what I'm about to explain, and people will understand after I've explained it. That match to me meant more than a pay-per-view because I knew and I know that we have a very competitive nature. We have a great chemistry and we work our fucking asses off in those matches, and they are fun, and we beat the shit out of each other, and they are fun, and people get into them, and they are fun. And that to me is worth the price of flying home. That to me is worth what I got into the business for. That's the part of it. And so, like, where I have been and where I've gone and what I have seen, I can't get that anywhere else.
Right. I
can't go to somewhere in Ontario and get somebody to work to that level. I can't go to the States and get somebody to work to that level because that level is not gone to anymore. People are afraid of it. But, and that's caveat. At that time, people were afraid of it. Yeah. Wrestling today has gone to another level. And like, there are guys out there working, 12 out of 10 matches.
Doing the craziest shit.
Yeah, nightly. I can't discount that. But at the time, 2007, like, and that's, as I said, you were the top guy. You were the top guy in this territory. Well, that's
well,
been where
considering I considered you the top guy, that's a huge compliment, man.
And so to say that, that's us patting each other in the back, and all that kind of bullshit. But at the same time, it's not an unrealistic statement, because even today, were you to take a booking, you would still remain a top draw on the card and or top position on the card.
Thank you so much. And I honestly, the respect is right back. Like I feel the exact same way about you. Like I still
take the odd booking, and I still am garnered a high level of respect and blah, at least in Western Canada. Right. And that's the deal is like outside of Western Canada, nobody knows who the fuck we are. So, when we go to the States, we're opening match. Like, what can these guys do? But then it's like, oh my God, where are you from? The Dungeon? Oh, that explains it.
Right.
I can't even explain how many times I've heard that.
Right.
And I heard that from Tommy Dreamer. I heard that from Paul Heyman. Like, oh, well, that explains it. Like, so part of my respect for you and your brother and Pollock and anybody who came through that system with us, like 97 through 2005, there is a crew that can't be matched. And like, what the world didn't know is like AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels and Samoa Joe and all of these indie darlings had 100 matches, 50 matches together before they hit television.
Yeah, for sure.
But then they were hitting television and pay-per-view, and they were going, oh yeah, you remember that time we were in buttfuck wherever, right? And we did those things. Let's do that again. Like, oh, now it's new again.
Yeah.
Whereas like for me traveling, there was never any of that, right? Because there was no Stampede guys anywhere. There was no Dungeon guys anywhere.
Every match was a first match, like
every match. Yeah. Well, for not most,
for you, but it's hard to get chemistry
first
in
touch,
one night.
and that's it. And like in the first touch, and so like the basic wrestling fan, when they watch wrestling, one of my favorite things, and this is a point of pride for me, is I always explain it to people like wrestling schools are just like going to universities. You can go to Shecky's Midnight Wrestling down the road, or you can go to Harvard or, MIT or whatever.
Absolutely.
The Dungeon was Harvard, and that was like your education did not get any better than that. And when I went on the road, it was so readily apparent. Right. Like it was just, it was nightmarish at times, because the untrained leading the untrained who are opening schools, third generation untrained backyard are opening schools and stuff. It just became terrifying.
Well, and that's, I was talking to Kurt about that the other day. And I mean, there's so much, because I never took the chances you did and did those gigs. You know what I mean? I was so fucking spoiled by the guys I got to work night in, I was main eventing every night with guys like you, Red Thunder, Pollock, TJ, Harry, Jarrett, Yates. Like we had that indie, like, and I said this to Kurt the other day, I will put the indie rosters we had at Stampede and PWA at that time in that era against any indie roster out there at the time, hands down. Couldn't hold a candle to what we were doing. And that's not me saying I was great, but those rosters, man, the 15 guys that we had on those shows were unreal.
You're wrong.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you said you would put it against any indie out there. I would put it against any television product out there.
Okay.
Because without the gas, because we had a crew of guys who didn't want to be juice monkeys.
No, we all worked
clean. We had a crew of guys.
Sure.
Yeah, we had a crew of guys who didn't want to be jacked up and blah. Yeah. We wanted, athletic, large, as best as we could, body types that suited us, for combat, whatever the case may be.
For sure.
Right?
We could still move.
Right? Well, and we didn't go out of our way to be gigantic body guys.
Yeah.
And that was what held like most of us back. That was the one flaw in our game, is that half of us weren't all gassed up. And the ones who were gassed up were getting tried out and looked at and gone, okay, well, how come you can't work like these guys?
Yeah. Well, and that's, and like, that's why I say, like, when I got I won't get into the whole story, but kind of when my name came up on a Japan tour, there was a crew of guys that sent tapes. And what had got back to me is that of all those guys that sent tapes, I said, why did they call me then? Well, because you were on all of those tapes. Do you know what I mean? So but that tells
you're the best of match. Well, I've been the best of match numerous times.
Well, and that's the thing, man. Like I say, and I'm not blowing sunshine up your ass, Devine. We had this conversation with who the hell was I talking to? I apologize now, but you're one guy specifically that I say did not get your doing the business. And I'm literally not blowing sunshine up your ass. I thought you had a good body. I mean, like you say, we weren't monsters, but you had a good body. You could do everything you wanted to in the ring. You could chain wrestle, you could work, you could brawl, you could high fly, you could do whatever you want. You could cut one of the better promos I've ever seen. You know what I mean? Like you could do everything. So the fact that you didn't get signed to become a megastar is a little bit, to me, I don't have the word.
It's okay.
It's a little bit horse shit on the business.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Like, I have it for you. It's called I Fell Victim to Politics.
Well, and I think that's probably a lot of it, right? Like Samoa Joe fell victim to bad booking,
Well, and that's, so let's do a little history lesson. And this is great because you'll be able to play this game along with me and know more than the average person and then be able to relate to it.
Right.
So in 98, like I had gone pretty much injury free.
Mm-hmm.
I'd hurt myself in the army, blew out my left knee kind of thing and strained my back pretty bad, carrying too much shit. And then once getting into wrestling, I'd pretty much been injury free, except for breaking my arm, dislocating my elbow and my shoulder when a move went wrong kind of thing.
Well, trying not to kill a guy, if I recall.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
You're not wrong. Trying to save somebody else's life.
Yeah, fair enough.
But you will remember in 2001-2 going into 3, I got rear-ended and lost the use of my right arm for a year.
I do remember. Yeah, it was like frozen.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
It was gone. Like the nerves were severed. And so after 6 months, it was skeletal. Remember, I couldn't lift it. I couldn't do anything with it. Like that was peak time. That was going to Japan time. That was WWE tryout time. That was right. So here's everything you have. Here it is. Silver platter right there. Yeah. We're just going to take that. We're going to take your right arm away from you. Yeah. And good luck. And so the doctors were like, "Oh, you'll never lift your arm again.
They packed her in right away.
Right away. Like the chances of recovery are slim. Like they gave me like a 6% chance of recovery. Like that was a generous guesstimate. 6%. I was like, what?
How do you arrive at 6? Not 5, not 10, but 6.
Yeah.
Like
anyway, so whatever, sheer determination. I heal my arm. It works. I get back to it. I get fucking healed up. I get my shit together and I get a tryout again, but this time, not for WWE, but for TNA. And there get signed and go there and move to Nashville and start doing the dance. And then politics kicks in and I get stabbed. And when I get stabbed, I'm on a pay for play contract. So if I'm not on television, I'm not making any money.
Right.
And I'm living in the States, not making any money. So I got to get my ass back on television.
Yeah.
So what people don't know about this point is it's at this moment that TNA was doing the push of Team Canada. We were to be the new 4 horsemen. Eric Young and I were to be the tag team champions, P.D. Williams, the X Division, and Bobby Roode, the world champion.
Right.
My getting stabbed fucked up that whole plan. So people were pissed off.
Yeah.
Right. So Bobby Roode,
damn you for getting stabbed.
Right. And I was literally blamed by office members.
For getting
stabbed. Like people are like, fuck Devine, you're always looking for trouble, blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, I'm looking for somebody to fucking, end my life, take out a foot of my lower intestine and my gallbladder, sew up my stomach and my bladder, and, try to cut my throat a half a dozen times, put 100 stitches in me and 78 staples. Jesus. Totally looking for exactly that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I was looking for today. Yeah. Thank you.
So then and this is the secondary rib on me on this. That happens on a Saturday. The next week, John Cena does a stabbing angle so that he can go off to make the Marine. So when one of the
I'm not lying, I do think I remember thinking it was important.
It was I was literally in the New York Times, and then the next week that was an angle for them. And so I cut a promo on USA Championship Wrestling dressed as John Cena, and probably got me heat for the rest of my life, which I would assume.
Sometimes you got to say what the fuck.
Hey, it's fair enough. So I come back from that. And when I come back from that, AJ Styles and I have a conversation, and we have a match for him. Like he's doing a big build up for a title run and blah. Right. We go out and we have, I think, 6 or 7 minutes for TV. And before the show, and what people don't know about this is before the shows, like the ring was usually fairly busy with a number of us who would get down there and roll around and like shoot grapple, do fucking BJJ,
right.
All kinds of shit in the ring while people are still working on their matches and doing whatever. We were out there shooting and stuff. And so I would roll with AJ once in a while, who's a fucking shooter. Buddy, let me tell you, he can go. Him and Pollock would have been a fucking great match. That would have been super go, boys, and we would have fucking sat back with drinks for a while on that.
Bought tickets.
Oh yeah. So AJ and I had a very good rapport, and so we went out there and we fucking lit it up, and we had worked kind of a little bit for USA Championship and a couple of other places in the South.
Okay.
And so it was the company's first, wow, Devine, we didn't know you could step it up like that. Meanwhile, the X Cup stuff, I'm the only one doing 450s and shooting stars, and the only one high flying, but okay, we didn't know. So I come back from that and they go, okay, well, let's get back into the plan. Eric Young and Devine will be NWA tag team champions, and Bobby World and PD blah. And Eric Young and I are Mid-South tag team champions for Jerry Lawler's promotion out of Memphis at the time, working there had to be 5,000 people.
Nice.
Memphis. It was awesome. It was
fun.
I'm blanking on the damn name of the historic Memphis Coliseum or something like that.
Right. I never know the arenas. The only one I know.
It's awful that
auditorium is the only one.
Well, it's awful that I'm forgetting. But anywho, so we're wrestling Too Cool 2, which is a takeoff of Too Cool, and I get knocked off the apron, and somebody had spilled a Coke or something and didn't wipe it up, and I hit. And my knee blows out, and I blow all 4 ligaments in my knee. Oh. My foot's literally up by my head. I'm like, what? Lean back. Eric Young looks over the ropes as I take my leg, and I'm like, clunk, clunk, clunk.
Yuck.
He's like, you all right? And I'm like, nope, you're going to have to finish this. And they go into the finish, and I stand up, and Eric Young helps me walk to the back. Jerry Lawler hands me my 200 American. Thanks, kid. Sorry about your knee.
Good luck.
Off you go.
Shit.
So,
what's that rehab worth in the States?
Well, and that's so there. Here's okay. Little known. You're leading the conversation beautifully, Gordon.
Thanks, buddy.
Beautifully, Gordon. So I have thankfully for the stabbing, I had travel insurance.
Okay.
$23,000 for the repair.
Holy crap.
Yep.
Wow.
Okay. 4 days left on my travel insurance.
Really?
They tried so hard to get out of it. And I'm like, come on. No, you motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Seriously.
I got 4 days
left. Seriously, it was crazy.
Wow.
So this one, I'm like, fuck, twice, this is going to take forever to get into blah. So Scott D'Amore goes, well, come to Windsor. I got a guy. Okay. Cause I got nothing else fucking going on at the time.
Yeah.
So I go to Windsor, and this is no word of a lie. I land on Sunday, drive in on a Sunday. I'm in the doctor's office Sunday night, and I'm in surgery on Wednesday.
D'Amore does have a guy. Holy crap. I waited I don't know, 8 months, I think.
Okay. I kid you not.
Yeah.
And so all right, blah. So get all 4 surgically repaired. Essentially, they were up in my quad. They had to be pulled down like a Venetian blind kind of and stapled back onto my tib there. And blah. Anyway.
RoboCop in your stuff.
Let's call that step back number 3.
Yeah.
Shall we?
Yeah.
Okay. So when I come back from that one, everything is different. And this is where, the mood kind of changes. And this is where my attitude has started to change now.
You're starting to get a little bitter.
Well, it's not that I'm bitter. And that's a lot of people say bitter. And bitter is definitely the wrong word.
Okay.
Because
sorry, man. And again, please, I apologize for
let's explain it, because you're a guy who others, and let's call them young boys at this point, would probably call you bitter for not making it.
Yeah, for sure, man.
But
which couldn't be further from the truth, for sure.
Exactly. And I'm not bitter. Yeah. What I am is fucking pissed off and disappointed for lost opportunity, because nobody, and you can attest to this, I believe, nobody worked as hard as I did for those fucking opportunities.
No, I will always say
everyone in Canada and that's, I go on the line because with the injuries that I came back from, nobody else could have done what I done.
No, I have no problem saying that. Again, I don't know anybody that sacrificed more for the business than you did. Do you know what I mean? You did all the right things. You sent out, like, honestly, man, I had no idea sending out tapes was a thing until you guys really sent tapes to Japan. Do you know what I mean? I think Frank Cullen asked me for a tape for England. And I don't want to sound disrespectful when I say this, but Tiger Khan phoned him. He went there for 10 days and came home, and he phones me. He's like, "Don't go there, bro. You have to drive around like the whole country with your fucking bag on your lap. You never get sleep." He's like, "Don't go there."
and Swift, myself, and Rick Vane went and did 3 months and 90 shows, or 91 shows in 95 days or something like that.
Wow. See, that
was madness. It was madness, right? It was madness, but it was a learning experience. It was massive, massive learning experience, and one I wouldn't want to, trade for anything else. At the same time, I would make changes if I could.
Do things a little differently, maybe.
But so at this point, like in 2006, 7, when I get back to TNA at this point, like everything's different. Everybody's afraid of all these WWE guys coming in, taking spots now.
Oh, okay.
All the money is going to those guys, and the under guys, like, bro.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is, me to be one of the straightest shooters.
Yeah.
Because I don't fucking lie to people. I got nothing to hide.
That's why you and I respect each other, because nobody ever has to wonder what Johnny Devine or Duke Durango are thinking.
Legit. As the lowest paid guy on the roster, which I didn't find out till years later.
Right.
When I went back into contract negotiations, I got fucked.
Oh,
like fucked.
Like, if you want to work here, here's your 6-pack.
Well, it's essentially sort of.
Right.
So all of my compatriots were literally making triple and quadruple what I was making. So the other guys in Team Canada were making triple to quadruple what I was making.
Wow. That's a stiff kick in the balls.
Oh, like in the beginning, it was the same. Then second round of contract shit changed, which I didn't know. Then third round, I got fucked.
Oh.
And so shit I didn't know about contracts, right? And stuff that, the learning curve. And this is, well, what happened to Devine? Well, when you're the only fucking Calgary guy, people treat you different.
Right.
When you're the only guy from a place with no backup, no click, no crew,
you're an outsider,
no office support.
Yeah.
You're the guy thrown to the wolves.
Yeah. And if people have never been in a locker room, they would never understand how that works. Do you know what I mean? Especially like you say, being, a small fish in a small pond, right? We're still trying to make our names for ourselves at that point.
Exactly.
You're swimming with, the previous generation superstars, like mega stars. Superstars doesn't do those guys justice.
Exactly. And so, like, I'm doing the good soldier, keep my mouth shut, my ears open, and, like, do what I'm told. Yes, sir, no, sir, 3 bags full, sir. I'm dressing up in a fucking elf suit, dancing on national television.
Right.
I'm being shoved down a ramp in a shopping cart for Jackass, the movie, like all kinds of good wrestling stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
hey kid, you want to get over?
I don't know if you notice what my pedigree is there, guys, but maybe you should put me and Kurt Angle in the ring together and see what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
And Kurt and I rolled a couple times.
How'd that feel?
Not next level.
I had some stupid idiot once ask me if I could wrestle with Kurt Angle. I was like, man, let me tell you how it works. There's guys like me, and then there's guys that win the Olympics who I shouldn't be on a mat with.
Like, even in his advanced years broken down state,
right?
Not a man I would ever take lightly. What a like grip strength, and just from 0 to 800 miles an hour, like the flick of a light switch that you've never seen. It's insane.
And just hard as fuck.
Oh, solid.
Just gristle. Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. You seem all salivating. I'm just getting so excited.
Well, that's so like there was a point where like I had guys like Loki and AJ and them coming to me and being like, Divine, what's going on? Like an angle that we did, if you followed TNA and all, at all, was the X Division Trader stuff with the Dudley Boys. Well, the Dudley Boys decided they wanted to work with the X Division and fucking essentially bury it.
Sounds
And
about right.
they took an X Division guy as their hostage, who ended up being the traitor.
Right.
Now, I was essentially handpicked for that role by Bubba and Devon because they respected my dungeon status and they had me over to their school to teach their kids dungeon stuff. So that's how I ended up with that spot. And it's like, okay, well, here's the point where they're fucking finally going to start to give me a push and a rub. Okay. Little known fact. The night before they were going to put the X Division title on me for a long stretch, apparently, since I was one of the few actual heels within the X Division, I was out drinking with Abyss, went back to the hotel. The front desk girl and I got into an argument. We were friends, but 3 weeks prior, she had sent me like a topless photo. I had zero interest in this girl whatsoever. Okay, like she was a friend because I use this hotel all the time.
Right.
So we got into an argument. Drunkenly, I grabbed her school bag and I put it in a garbage can. There was no garbage. There was no garbage in the garbage can. It didn't get dirty. There was nothing wrong with it.
Right.
She called the office, like she called Jeff Jarrett directly.
No.
Try to get me fired. So I walk in the morning and Terry Taylor's like, Divine, I got to fire you. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? And he's like, blah, blah, blah. This girl's claiming sexual harassment or sexual assault. And I'm like, what?
Oh my God.
Like, okay, like where, when, how? Well, this is the explanation behind the desk. And I'm like, okay, produce me some of that videotape footage of the 20 cameras that are there.
No
of
kidding.
Where I even touched this girl because I never physically was in contact with her. And so politics pulls my title run. 4 months later, they give it to me for 20 days.
Right.
To be like, oh,
here's the run we promised you.
Well, and this is 4 months later when her bullshit lawyer letter arrives trying to stretch TNA and I for $20,000. Oh, well, say that, pay us $20,000 and we won't go to the media. And we're all like, fuck you. Like, I don't have $20,000, first of all.
Yeah, let's start
I'm
there.
the lowest paid fucking guy on the roster. I can barely afford the hotel that I'm staying in weekly.
Yeah, not only that, I'm getting a quarter of what the other boys are making. So frig off.
Well, and that's it. Like we're so poorly paid, we still have to pay our own hotel.
Oh shit.
Meanwhile, the guys who are getting a fucking $1 million a year, full comp deal. Like, why don't you comp the fucking boys who need it?
Yeah.
You pricks.
That's how it always goes.
So, well, and that is how it always goes. So these fucking assholes, they stretch the boys thin and then wonder why they get fucking pissed off and leave or bitchy or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, when you treat them like shit, no wonder.
Well, and you pay your people well and treat them better, they'll never leave you, right? Like,
and so,
it's such a simple concept.
So I get this fucking 20-day title run where, hey, we're sorry, but, we're going to do other stuff with you after this.
Right.
Yeah, that all ended real well too. It ended up being a nightmare. So I had to quit.
Right.
Because they were just going to they had already killed my character. Like, Johnny Devine is a job guy.
Yeah. Well, dancing
in everywhere, everywhere except Canada. Whereas Canada, as we've already stated, we are top guys wherever we go.
Yeah, for sure.
So, also little known fact, 2016-17, I did my last 2 WWE tryouts, right?
Okay.
Where I was, Raj, Big Raj.
Big Raj.
Jinder set me up, was like, hey, come to this pay-per-view and, get a look, blah, blah, blah. Like, okay, like, nice. Why not? And so I went and they were like, hey, you look great. We could use you in 205, get you another, at the time, I think it was like 185.
Right.
Like, let's get you another 10 pounds so that you're, everybody's size. Yeah. But I'm like, isn't like Daniel Bryan, like 185. But
Yeah.
okay, whatever. So this is in October. So in January, I'm starting to get all gassed up, beefed up.
Right.
Like, not gassed. I'm not.
I know what you mean.
Gassed up, but
Yeah.
I get hit and run by an ambulance.
Holy shit, man.
No lights, no siren, running a light in Windsor. It was madness. Like madness.
No way.
Jordy, I swear to you, if I hadn't been paying attention, it was a blind corner. So I'm heading southbound on this corner. I'm crossing from a side street, which has a set of lights, and my light turned green before I'd even gotten to the intersection.
Right.
I'm crossing a main strip called Tecumseh, and it's brick buildings on all four corners, so you can't see the street.
Right.
So I'm coming up to it. I'm only doing 50, and my spider sense tingles, and I'm like, huh? And I catch this fucking ambulance. And if I didn't hit the brakes, the ambulance, I'm driving a 2-door Jeep Wrangler.
Oh shit.
No protection on the sides.
Yeah.
If
No
I
match
did
for
not
an
touch
ambulance.
the brake. Yeah. If I did not touch the brake, this thing would have hit me broadside. I would be street grease. Right. Even at 50, I would have been mangled.
Oh yeah.
So I hit the brakes. It ends up blowing out like my front end and my tire and blah, and fucking off to its call. Doesn't still turn on its lights.
Seriously.
And I swear to God, there's a cop on the corner, parked, police car at the intersection, drives away.
What the fuck?
So by the time this next quote unquote tryout rolls around, I'm like a strung out basket case.
Right.
Like hell. They and this is a funny story for those who don't know the tryout process. Jordy, you understand this. On the Mondays at Raw, you get a look, you get maybe a guest spot or like an extra role doing
security.
a conga line or security or some other bullshit. But then Tuesdays in the afternoon, you'll get some kind of match / look in the afternoon.
Okay. Yeah.
So, or if you're not getting a dark match or something, right? Like they'll at least let you get in the ring with somebody so that they can have a look.
Yeah.
So I'm in Montreal, and there's this kid who was at Scott D'Amore's school with me, who I helped retrain there, who wrestled under Randy. Well, and he wrestled under Randy Rain, and he was okay, but we made him exceedingly good. He's like 6'6".
Oh boy.
He's a
has the tools.
Hoss. He's a hoss.
Right.
So he knew me well, and I knew him well. And I'm like, hey man, let's do some stuff from the school. He's like, oh, that's a great idea. Like, yeah, we'll blow their minds in 6 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, okay, great. So we set up some stuff on the Monday. Tuesday rolls around. We get in the ring, or we get to the ring, and we're getting set up. TJ comes over, hey, this, like, yeah, me and him, we're gonna go. And TJ goes over, and the office is like, no, we want Devine to work with this other kid, who's this Scottish kid from Santino's school in Toronto, who is a shooter, but not a worker yet.
Oh, great.
He's only been in the business like a year and a half.
Oh.
You know what I mean? And he's super nervous and super green. So I'm like,
perfect.
Fuck, of course. Why not? Yeah. No notice. No notice. You got 1 minute. Get in the ring. We don't care who's going over. Show us what you got.
Right.
Well, gee, let me show you my best stuff.
Yeah. With this kid who can't. Yeah.
So I lead this kid around for 5 minutes of garbage of best we can to carry him through. And I get, oh, well, we like your old school shooter gimmick.
Oh, for Christ's sake.
Thanks. Hey, TJ, what's up? Thanks, T.
Oh,
Natty, what's up? Okay, thanks. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. So since then, not much.
Right.
Right? Because it's like when people spell it out for you without spelling it out for you, you can read the writing on the wall, right? So the shoulda, coulda, wouldas were all there, because all of those people all know who I am.
Right.
Things that I heard regularly. You're too famous for us to put you out there, even though my face hasn't been on TV since technically 2008.
Right.
Right. But I'm too famous to put out there because people will know who I am. That's 12 years ago. 10 years ago at the time.
Yeah, for
Do
sure.
you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
that makes no sense. So like the excuses I was given were, you're too big for the spot. We don't have the right spot for you. Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, much like Harry, if you can't find something for a dungeon trained guy to do who can cut a promo, get heat, do all the fucking fun stuff,
Yeah.
and still make it suspension of disbelief believable without slapping my thigh.
You won't have to ban me. Yeah,
Right?
it's
Um,
and you know what, man, I keep hoping. And here's the thing: this is probably my. I don't know if this is if it comes across as a harsh critique, but the worst thing I say about WWE, or the one thing I've been saying for 15 years at least, is one day they'll start selling wrestling again. Do you know what I mean? Like they haven't been selling. Not. Like they stopped selling wrestling in about 2002. Do you know? Yeah. And went a different direction. And obviously, very successful. Revenues are bigger than they've ever been. So fat, drunk, and stupid here doesn't know shit, and I'll concede that. But there's so many opportunities they missed out on really good people that could have sold a lot of fucking t-shirts because they weren't selling wrestling.
And that's the amount of talent that they miss on far exceeds the amount of talent that they hit on.
Yeah.
Because other than like a Roman Reigns or a Braun Strowman / Firefly Funhouse guy, Bray Wyatt.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Homegrown talent-wise, they're not exactly hitting home runs.
No. And that's what I've been saying, too. Their top stars right now are all people that work the indies for most of their careers.
Right? And that's, it's the office. Like the guys backstage are all, Adam Pearce. Like these guys are long time journeyman workers that would be better suited on camera, but okay, whatever. Like that's the product that they're going with. It's just part of like why I love the resurgence of Ring of Honor, AEW, Impact, like all these different places for guys to work, more places to work, more options for styles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's all better quality product for us to watch.
Absolutely.
I can't stand watching. I watched night 2 of WrestleMania, and I literally left with a migraine that lasted over 24 hours.
Oh, geez.
And that's like, I wish I was joking,
right?
But the way that they cut shots now, they cut. And then there's like 6 cuts that all have nothing to do with what's happening in the ring. It in fact takes away from what's happening in the ring because they cut to the audience, they cut to the announcers, they cut to this, they cut to that. Meanwhile, they're missing guys blowing their brains out for fans in the ring.
Yeah.
Guys taking monstrous superplex bumps, or what have you to the floor. But hey, we're going to cut to a crowd reaction while you're in the middle of your cell.
Yeah, to me, that's the biggest sin is cutting away. Like, we were always taught like, go out, get your heat, etc. But never take heat away from what's going on in the ring, right? If you're going to be a manager, what have you, plant in the crowd. It was always make sure you don't take heat away from the boys in the ring because they're the one. And all of a sudden, you got 2 guys, like you say, out there blowing their brains out, having a pay-per-view match, and then okay, we're just going to cut the commercial. That drives me crazy. Like I get so stirred up.
and that like again is indicative of that version of pro wrestling now, the sports entertainment. Like I can't watch it because that hurts my head. Like they make so many superfluous, unnecessary cuts that it distracts from what's going on, and it hurts me. Like I can't do it. And then there's the announce team. Corey Graves is amazing. Don't get me wrong. Graves.
Because he knows the names of the moves.
Corey Graves is awesome.
Right? Like
everything else that I listen to is
it's tough to listen to, man. And I'm not there and I don't know what they have to work with, but it's like, can you at least, so you have Samoa Joe, who they of course just released. At least one of those three guys knew the name of a double wrist lock.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Those other two guys ties them up. Come on, bro. Learn the names of the moves.
Seriously. It's
Yeah.
not too much to ask.
No, and that's
right?
people can
it's
say
the
what they
bare
want about.
minimum.
Yeah, like it's to me, it's how do you go out in front of on average 2.75 million people a night and not know the name of all the moves? Do you know what I mean? Like it's just to me,
Right.
it's just it's disrespectful to the business. And I know people say, well, they don't need to because they're pushing a pay-per-view. Half the time they're not talking about the match anyways, which again
And that's
takes away
even
from
the
importance
larger
of the
problem.
match, right?
The larger problem.
Yeah, why are
Well,
we
we
having
have
this
no-
match if
we
we
have
want to
no
talk about someone
stars.
else's match?
I love that. We have no stars argument. Well, you have no stars because you talk about nobody but whoever else is in the main event.
Exactly.
Like how are
Yeah.
you supposed to make a star if Michael Cole is talking about 3 matches from now or 2 matches past?
Yeah,
Never what's happening.
and shitting on not only putting over 3 matches later, but
Brutally.
sometimes shitting on the guys in the ring.
Brutally. Yeah.
Yeah, like he's been guilty of that a little bit. But again, I mean, he's got a great voice. He can make it exciting, but it's I always get to a point where it's like, well, how obviously it's what the office is looking for, right? Like we're kind of chirping the boys on the table, but that's what the office is looking for.
Well, and that's they're
exactly.
getting fed what to say, and that is a huge part of the problem in and of itself. Is it's like if whoever's doing the feeding doesn't know what the fuck you're talking about, well, then it's all coming out gibberish and weird and nonsensical, and that's the lost art of what like Jim Ross and for a lesser now known name like Gorilla Monsoon were amazing at is giving you the fan the perspective of the average workaday man. What's happening? Well, he's putting leverage on the shoulder, which is causing it to, blah, blah, blah. Oh, now it makes sense of what he's doing. Right?
Which is what the color man does in hockey and football. They describe the play to you because they actually know what is happening.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Well, and that's the play-by-play guy. And then the color guy,
yeah,
usually the heel, gives you the flavor of like, yeah, he should be hooking you give him a fish hook, but he's staying within the rules. But,
yeah, like it I don't know. And maybe some of that is
that.
Well, and I mean, they've pushed so hard to change the business. Do you know what I mean? Like it's almost like they're the entire business too. And I'm not just pissing on the WWE, but the entire business has changed to a point where they don't almost want you cheering for one guy. They don't want one guy to get over because they want you tuning in to watch the company, not the guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that's very, very, very true.
Yeah.
Very true. But as you can see with Roman Reigns or John Cena or The Rock or whatever, they had established with Hogan that there has to be a company guy.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that.
And
there has
the
to
finding
the Wayne Gretzky, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. But finding the guy has become a more difficult prospect when they are growing them in their performance center as opposed to cultivating them from the landscape of what used to be regional promotions.
Well, and you have a much smarter fan base than you had. These fans
more access to information. Right?
Absolutely. You have, these guys get so much information. So then what you have is when the fans realize that there's an office guy, right? And Roman Reigns is a prime example of that.
They turn on him.
They're pushing that guy. And it wasn't, I'd always kind of laugh because like, he's got an amazing look. He works his balls off. He cuts a good promo.
Really does. He's great.
Like, how do you not like this guy? Well, like, what's not to like here? Well,
there is no downside.
Yeah, they're pushing him. Yeah, man, fuck that guy. How does that make sense? And then they ask for something different.
The heel lovers,
right? We want something different. Okay, here's Jinder Mahal. We're going to give you Jinder Mahal because it's different. Here's a new champion. Right on. Here you go, man. Fuck Jinder Mahal. He's not what we wanted. We wanted something different, but not that.
Right? But not that different.
Yeah, the fans are
want a different kind of different.
Yeah, like they drive the business, so you need them, but they're so fickle.
Oh, and that's you can't please all the people all the time. But what you can do is make sense of things,
Yeah.
right? Where, Bray Wyatt goes away from being burned horribly alive and then gets beaten in his return match. Make sense of that to me, like.
The thing is, here's the thing. I didn't like when you look at the overall storyline, I definitely question that part for sure. But I did like the finish. Do you know what I mean? Like the Alexa Bliss thing with the I thought that was kind of a neat finish.
I absolutely agree.
But I do agree that was a dog shit fit. That was a dog shit payoff to that program.
Sure. Yeah, let's just pour some paint over Alexa Bliss and call it a day.
Well, yeah, then we'll just like you say, we'll bury the guy we lit on fire anyways. Who's over? Who's so over?
Like, what kind of stars are you creating when you do that stuff? You know what I mean? Like the old rule where the hometown guy always lost. Like madness.
That to me is one of those, like that's just an office rib.
That like what a stupid rib that hurts business.
Yeah,
it hurts business. That guy could sell 10,000 more t-shirts that night if you didn't job him out horribly. Yeah, but okay, whatever. Like
that's one thing that's never ever made sense. Even like I remember, the story about Owen when, and I know you know this story as well as I do, when Bob Holly was wrestling in his hometown.
Oh, and the
and Owen volunteered to put him over, right? And everyone was just like, "Oh, can you believe you?" Like, yeah. Owen's like, "What do you mean we're not putting the guy over in his hometown? Like, what's going on?"
Right?
Yeah,
it's madness, and that like. To me, that's like ribs are great and all, but when they hurt business and they hurt the boys' bottom line, that's not a good rib.
Well, I actually remember wrestling somebody, I was a veteran of like 5 matches, I think. And, very worldly. And this guy was having his first match. And we were actually wrestling in his hometown. And he was rattled because they were putting him over. And the excuse they gave him was, well, he's the veteran. You only had those 5 matches. Well, I'll never forget it. And like it was one of those, like I was too,
technically it counts.
If someone did that now, I'd probably put the guy over and just eat shit from the office in the back when I got back there. Right. But then I wouldn't have thought to change the finish. You know what I mean?
Well, that's when you're green. You don't think that.
Yeah. Now I'd just be like, "Nah, don't worry, man. I'll put you over." Like, well, it's a spot show. Who cares?
Yeah, nobody's gonna care.
Yeah,
those 20 people will remember next month, though.
Yeah. Well, I was actually interviewing a guy, and he says, "Oh, I don't know if I should say this," and I said, "Don't worry, man. Nobody's watching."
There'll be 100 at least.
Yeah, yeah. It's weird how you get some of you get 150 views, and then you get 25, and it's but it's interesting.
I went back to school and got a broadcasting degree just so that I could understand the TV side of things.
That's brilliant, though. That's why you're getting mad at all the cuts. I was wondering, like, geez, Devine's really into the production,
bro. And that's I know more of. Well, okay, I don't want to say I know more about production than I know about wrestling now, but I know more about what not to do for production than I know about what not to do for wrestling.
Yeah.
And that, like, there's some bad stuff going on all over the place. But at the same time, I'm
going to ask you a question.
Sure.
So TJ and I were talking, and one thing I find, like, when it comes to lighting a venue, running the cameras, do you know what I mean? Like what I'll call the look of the production.
Yeah.
What does WWE do differently, do you think? Because their production, like just the view of it, take away the cuts and things like that, but the view of it is always so slick. Like it's always so much better than everybody else, I find.
Well, okay, and that's because everybody else is coming from a deficit. So when you think in terms of longevity, right? WWE's been around since the 80s.
For sure.
As WWF.
Doing what they're doing now.
Before it was WWF.
Yeah.
Now it's when it became
and it was regional.
Right. When it became national on television, they bought a lighting rig.
Right.
And that rig has grown with the production.
Okay.
So when you have the most money and you can buy the most toys, of course you're going to look the slickest.
That's fair.
So there's more money in just their lighting rig than any 3 shows that I can think of put
Right.
together, other than maybe AEW's new productions.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because most people don't have the budget
Yeah.
to throw at 20 rows of lights and different this and so many that and blah blah blah.
27 cameras.
And, and then meanwhile, you're looking at regional promotions, we'll call them now, where guys are taking up, states and or areas of Canada / Western Canada, whatever,
right?
Where those promotions, even the regional ones, budgetarily, let's call it $10,000 to $50,000 in lighting and equipment, not $1 million to $6 million worth of lighting, right?
Yeah.
Like they've got 5 different trucks just for lighting,
right?
And not small trucks, big ass
trucks. We're talking tractor trailers
and that's exactly. So like when the Stampede ring truck shows up with its 6 speakers and a boom box with a plug-in microphone, and the truck's broken down and one wheel's fallen off of the trailer, and
you know what, one thing I took for granted, and I should thank you again for this right now, is how much you guys put into the ring crew. Like yourself, Bill Yates, Ivan, and that truck was a disaster. Like you guys were literally every time, and I didn't have perspective on it. As I've gotten older, I was like, geez, man, like those guys, that truck, they were literally taking their lives in their hands to do the ring for us.
Legit, we took our lives in our hands,
and we did not show you guys enough respect.
Single road trip, it was like
we're like, oh, they get paid $20 more, so they can handle it.
Billy and I at times, like I remember, and like after a while, it was Billy, Highlander, and Ruffy, because like I had to bow out because of the money, right? Like it's just like it was not worth it. Like, and that I got heat for that, but that became one of my big things over time, where it's like, look, if you're not going to pay me, tell me, and I won't waste my time.
Yeah, for sure.
Because ultimately, my time is the only thing that's valuable.
Yeah,
and if you're going to waste it, so like, time. Well, and that's the ring truck could or could not be a waste of time, like a lot of these things, so like when it starts breaking down regularly, it's like, okay, like either get the ring truck fixed or get a new ring crew, because I'm not going to do it anymore. And then Devine fucking holding us up for money. Like, I'm not holding you up for money. I'm asking for regular, normal fucking wage for the work that I've done.
Even.
That's my favorite. Like, Devine always trying to hold us up for money. Like, I'm sorry for asking for being paid normally.
Like you're the ultimate warrior.
God forbid. And like, hey, we're going to use you in the main event, and here's a quarter of what we promised you. Like, well, what do you mean? If I'm the main event of a show, why am I being paid a quarter? Yeah. Well, you this and like I this and I that. What? Just fucking okay, But okay, don't get mad, Devine, because we know you have a temper.
Well, and that's I always kind of I never one of the things when I started working for PWA was after I left, we all left Stampede, right? And we started WCEW there. And I remember sitting in the office with those guys when they wanted to start that promotion, and they're saying, well, how do you guys get paid? And I kind of explained to them how we get paid. And they're like, okay, well, we'll use that model. And I'm like, no, if you can't afford to give these guys a guarantee every night, you can't afford to run. Period.
Legit. Period.
And moving forward from then, no matter who I worked for, that was the deal. And I was never looking for a huge guarantee, but if you can't afford to give me some sort of guarantee, I'm not coming. Yeah. Like forget it.
It's not too much to ask, but the problem is when you're working for quote unquote indie promoters who've never promoted anything, have no information to go off, and are just making it up as they go along. Right? Like the nightmare just it confounds itself because it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse.
Yeah. Well, and even now I think it's gotten worse because people say, well, I'm advertising, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram. It's like, that's not it, man. Like that's not
that's not advertising. That's the bare minimum.
How many autograph sessions do you think we did at fucking Boston Pizza and Hooters and the Vegreville State Fair?
All of them? Hundreds for free.
God.
For
nothing. right? Like people don't really, I remember catching a little heat. I caught some heat in Stampede when they started selling our pictures. And I said, well, how much do we get from each picture? And kind of what came back to me was like, well, Davey and Dynamite didn't get money for their pictures. Well,
oh, really?
Whether they did or didn't is inconsequential to you selling my face and not giving me money for it.
Seriously.
Yeah. Bill Bell.
Effrontery knows no bounds.
Yeah, Bill Bell, he would pay for the t-shirt, he would pay for the picture, pay for the t-shirt, sell the t-shirt, and then come give you more money than he made off that t-shirt. Right? Like right? Bill Bell would come and hand you like $20. Like, what did I do? I sold the t-shirt tonight. Bill, the shirts are $20. I know you had to pay for the shirt.
Right. Thank you, Bill.
Like, yeah, man. That guy he was so good to most of us. Like, well, I shouldn't say to most of us. He was good to everybody. Unless you pissed him off, then he'd just say, fuck that
guy. Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah. Oh, Bill Bell, you never had to wonder.
Let me pause you there for 1 second. I'm going to fill up my water and turn on some better lighting.
Yeah, man, that Bill Bell he sacrificed a lot for Stampede Wrestling. I don't think a lot of the young guys, especially like you and I, would have seen it, but those young guys would have never understood how much money he'd originally invested in Stampede Wrestling and how much he was losing on every show.
To keep it going. Yeah. Like to keep it floating was.
Yeah. I remember joking once that he might as well own a race team.
Right? Just piss it away in gas.
Yeah. Just the most expensive hobby in the world, That's
it.
Yeah. So now, have you, with the pandemic, I want to shift gears a little bit. Would you have given up any bookings in the pandemic? Do you know what I mean? Were you still looking to keep wrestling?
Well, and so like I had gone out to Vancouver with zero expectation of anything.
Okay.
Like I had gone to say hellos. I went out to an ECCW show just to say hello to people. Say, hey, I'm in town if you're looking. Blah.
Scotty Mack owns that now, right?
Yeah. Okay. And Scotty was like, oh, yeah, I'll give you a call, blah. But never heard from him. But at the same time, the pandemic started up, and then all of that Me Too stuff kind of fucking kiboshed ECCW there. Like,
and I'm going to bring this up. Do you know who the Heat was on?
Sort of.
Okay. Like, but it wasn't Scotty Mack.
No.
I don't know him well, but what I know, one of the boys was like classy guy.
And that's so. Like from what I had heard, and this is I'd spoken to a few of the girls who were involved with stuff because I've been going to the All-Star Michelle Starr's school, which is run by the great Kasaki in Surrey. I'd been dropping in there once every little bit to roll around and whatnot. And so I'd kind of just been picking up information and was like shocked and surprised as anybody when this stuff came out. And like, it was, nothing good.
Well, right? I think you were probably like me, like you kind of know, you see some guys make some offhanded comment or whatever in the locker room, but I don't think we realized the extent.
Well, and that, so for example, like I had a very good complimentary relationship with Joey Ryan.
Right. Oh.
Okay. I had worked Joey in Detroit.
Yeah.
He put me over. We had great rapport, and then all this stuff came out, and I know a couple of people who have had to deal with him, and like the people who I know intimated to me their stories, and I was just like, okay, well, I guess that's a guy I probably won't be talking to again. Because that shit just it's rampant, but we don't understand necessarily how rampant. And like,
yeah, I say, we probably seen.
We were pretty sheltered.
I think so, man. We worked with a pretty good group of guys, right? Like you were saying, none of us were, there's no real chemistry experiments. There was no pill heads. There was nobody.
Well, and that's
like
out of anybody, I would have probably been the biggest troublemaker, or.
I think you and I just spoke
malcontent.
Yeah, you and I spoke.
Well, but I mean, like I partied hard, right? I partied hard. I did 2 or 3 people's partying,
right?
Because my life expectancy was short in the business. I expected to be done by 35, right? Like
we just smoked a lot of pot.
Was going to break down, right? Whereas I was out, right? And this, we would go out to after parties and fucking whatever it shows and some idiot would invariably try and fucking, call me on or fucking take a poke at me, and I'd have to put somebody to sleep, or Billy'd have to put somebody to sleep, or, like as we said earlier, it's not like I look for it, but when you're a pretty boy and you're little, like they come looking for you.
Well, I remember being out, I don't know where the hell we were, some dog shit town somewhere. And probably like fucking Red Deer. Just kidding, Red Deer. And we were out at the bar afterward. And I like Chris Lazansky was there, Cyborg was there. It was kind of during that era. I mean, those guys were monsters. And I kind of remember it was getting 1 o'clock in the morning. All of a sudden, kind of every guy in the bar started milling around where we were standing. And I kind of overheard one guy like, "Oh, I think we should see how tough these wrestlers really are." And I was just like, I didn't say anything to the guy, but I thought, this guy has no idea. Like, these people have, I mean, they see it on TV. They think it's horse shit. But when you're sitting at home crushing beers and eating hot dogs on Saturday night, we're working out hard. We're working hard. We're getting blasted.
We're lifting up humans, 230-pound guys, picking them up over our head and walking around with them.
Well, let's just take one tour, right? If you work one guy for 10 shots in a row at Stampede, that'd be like 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
And you work a chair shot in every one of those matches. What do you think that idiot at the bar is going to have to hit you with to knock you down?
Something you know what I mean? You develop that's for fucking sure. Oh,
you develop a tolerance that these guys have no idea, right? Like you have no idea how hard you're going to have to hit me to put me on the ground. But they're like, "Oh, that wrestling's horseshit." Okay, foolish. You know what I mean? Like they just don't get it. And I'm not saying that we're tough guys. I'm just saying that we could probably take more punishment than the average person understands.
Bro, like just in training alone, we level up, right? Like the professional wrestler, even at the Shecky's Fly-By Night school, levels up because gravity is a harsh mistress. There's no faking falling.
Yeah.
Right. And it teaches you to be tough because as soon as you fall, you find out.
Well,
and if you're not tough, you don't fall again.
Off the top of your head, I'll set the over under at 150. Guys that in the decade we were around the dungeon, 150 guys came and went because they couldn't handle it.
I'll double that number.
You'll double that.
I'll say double.
Right? Like
I'll say closer to 300 because there were guys that we didn't even necessarily see.
That's fair.
Like there were guys
when we were on the road.
There were. Well, that was it. There were times where we were on the road and guys like Swift or whoever was, doing the break-in and testing guys and checking guys. And like, that was, I called it the revolving door. Like people would come like, "Oh, that's pretty. Bye." This place hurts. Bye. I don't like pain. Bye.
Maybe I could be it was always, you could always tell
maybe I can be a manager.
Yeah, you could always tell a guy didn't want to, once he took that first bump, by the end of the first practice, well, maybe I could be a manager.
Commentator.
Yeah. Oh, the manager has to take bumps too the next day. Well, maybe I could be a ref. Yeah. Like you just watch him work down the scale. And there generally wasn't a third or fourth practice from those guys.
Wow. And that's the allure of wrestling is, and this is, side point here, All-Star Wrestling, we'd done a series of vignettes, and one of the questions they asked was, if you could do away with anything, what would you do away with? And I said, essentially PC culture, because it's making wimps out of all of our kids. And people, you can't do that. PC culture is making people better. Yeah, but is it really? Because we're pretty soft now.
It's making me better because I'm old enough to understand it. Right, as a little kid, I'd be like, so be hard.
Right, and so people come into the business thinking that it's all smoke and mirrors and easy, but then gravity kicks in, and they're like, "This isn't supposed to hurt. You're supposed to be taking care of each other." And it's like, motherfucker, falling from 7 feet is falling from 7 feet. You can't fucking soften falling, unless you can break gravity. In which case, please teach me.
Yeah. Why are you slamming me so hard?
That misconception.
Yeah. Well, that's people say, why are you slamming me so hard?
Kerwin,
well, so the ring will flex. If the ring doesn't flex, it's going to hurt a lot fucking more. So if I don't put any gravy on this, you're gonna really think I don't like it.
And that's
right.
And that's the difference, right? Somebody dumping you on your head because they're weak and they bloop you
Yeah.
down onto your brain hurts 10 times worse than somebody giving you a solid, crisp slam, which is
that's what
easy.
I was watching. Damn it. Doesn't matter which promotion. There was some sort of like a fatal 4-way tag match I think I was watching. And these guys worked their ass off. And they did some really, really, really cool shit. But I've never seen more unsafe bumps in a 20-minute period. Like
how many apron bumps?
Upside down, the upside down into the turnbuckle, but just enough room to land perfectly on your head. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it was just like, and I watched the match. I was like, that was a really good match, but those guys are all probably going to be so hurting tomorrow because there wasn't a square bump. Like everybody they just kicked the shit out of each other. It's like, would you just take a second, set each other down in a position or give the guy enough room to bump so he can set himself up and take a square bump, right?
No. We're in a rush. We got to get through these 50 spots before our 6 minutes ends.
You know what else is pissing me off right now, Devine? And I know you'll get it too. The neck Irish whip. Have you seen this bullshit?
Oh God. Okay. So so
I knew you'd agree with me on this one.
I will accept it when it's Braun Strowman. I will accept it when it's Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
I will accept it when it's a fucking 280-pound hoss grabbing a 200 to 250-pound guy and shoving his ass forward.
Okay, that's fair.
I will not accept it as a regular throw off for the most part.
Oh God.
And the back pass of Lucha Libre, while Lucha is a different art, and I love Lucha for what it is as a wrestler, the back pass is one of those things where like immediate loss of suspension of disbelief. Like you've immediately disconnected your crowd from what you're doing.
It's insulting.
And so, well, and that's our mentality, like our dungeon mentality is that you've immediately pressed restart on the match. You now have to start from zero again because the people have now immediately disbelieved everything, no matter what it was, up to that point.
You did,
and
you did 7 minutes of great shit and ruined it with that pass.
Well, and that's it. The later in a match a back pass happens, the less believable anything in that match becomes, right? Because you've immediately lost what little suspension of disbelief you've created. And now let's say, for example, one of the great tag teams out there, Penta El Zero Mierdo and Rey Fenix, who are amazing to like effing incredible to watch and great workers, but they immediately negate all this great stuff they do by doing unbelievable, like, and when I say unbelievable, I mean like comically unbelievable stuff in the middle of all of this crazy hard-hitting shit. And like the worst sin to me isn't even the back pass so much. Like I can allow it on the right kind of interaction. The worst sin to me is doing all of these amazing, fuck me, Jesus, crazy moves, and then no selling.
Don't get me started on the Young Bucks.
And going right into the next thing. Using the
they do shit that I could
Canadian
never dream
Destroyer
of doing.
as a transitional move, you know, like
they do shit that I could never dream and waste it. They just waste it.
Wasted.
Yeah,
and
they
like
do so much cool shit. They just waste it.
The most amazing stuff. And like to you and I, you could milk so much out of just one of those amazing.
The Young Bucks do more. I could squeeze a year's worth of shit out of one Young Bucks match.
Probably.
Right? Like those guys, they're so creative, they're so unbelievable. But then it gets to a point where it's like, this is legitimately unbelievable.
Well,
you know what I mean?
And that's now you've lost belief.
Exactly. Because it's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. All right.
And like you can't not laud those guys for being amazing athletes and gymnasts and whatever. But psychology wise, and this is
dog shit.
Well, and this is, you had said earlier, WWE is averaging like 2.7 million views and revenue is up and business is up. I can not quote numbers for you on that, but I can absolutely guarantee you business is down, right? While
Yeah.
numbers
Yeah,
might be
revenue's
up,
up.
but
What's like you say, what are house show numbers looking like?
well, and that's it. Nobody goes to the fucking shows because nobody cares. People
Yeah.
watch it on television because it's an entertainment source, and it's the only one with 16 hours of programming every week
For
in
sure.
its own channel. But is it truly creating more viewership, retention, people showing up to buy merchandise at the shows? No, it's absolutely failing in that. Whereas I believe to an extent, once this Rona is lost its way, or like, I'm really curious to see how it goes. Texas, Florida, not giving a shit anymore and just running.
Yeah.
How it goes and what's going to happen. Like, how's everybody going to, because once people start getting their asses back in seats, AEW is going to fucking wipe the mat with these guys as far as drawing a live house. And
You think so?
I do, because their live performance is better.
Right.
Because you have guys like Kenny Omega and John Moxley who are going to go out there and beat the horse shit out of each other
Yep.
on a house show.
Right.
Right? The Young Bucks are still going to go out there and do 20 different fucking things. Ray Phoenix and Penta are still going to go do 50 different crazy things.
The house shows will be like TV
on a house show. And that's
right.
the work rate won't go down. Whereas sports entertainment work rate stays the same, and it's garbage to begin with. So why are those house shows going down? Well, because you're giving them a fucking awful in-ring product when you try to bring that in-ring product to them live.
I wouldn't even say it's garbage. I would just say it's become generic.
Well, like, and that's, yes, that's a more apt description.
Every match looks the same.
I'm being
to me.
harsh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because you're a bitter old man, Devine.
Right.
But no,
it's garbage.
I agree
wrestling.
with you 100%. Every match,
for example.
Well, they bring in and I'm on this soapbox, man. They're like, hey, man, sign Johnny Devine. Why? Well, we like his look. We like the way he talks, and we like the way he wrestles. Then they sign you and send you to NXT and change the way you look, the way you talk, and the way you wrestle. And they're like, how come Devine can't get over? And I'm honestly, somebody in the office will hear this one day and adopt this theory. I know it.
They're
going to hire a guy and let him be the guy they hired.
Nope, that'll never happen. And that's Vince will always want to change something into his vision. The travesty to me. Imagine this match, okay? And this is I was heartbroken to see Samoa Joe. But imagine Aleister Black versus Samoa Joe pay-per-view WrestleMania. Mm-hmm. Aleister Black with an Undertaker entrance, Samoa Joe being him. Madness. Yep, like that match right there, if you let those two guys do their thing, is insanely good.
Just let them go.
AJ Joe, just let him go. But why did we not have these things? Well, or in abundance. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't tell me, creative.
And I think that's why, excuse me, not to blow too much sunshine up TJ's ass, because nobody is probably a bigger TJ dick rider than me. But if you watch all of WrestleMania, even if you just watch the women's matches, because I'm willing to bet money TJ produced every one of them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that to me is people are saying like, oh, why is the women's division taking off? Because TJ's highlighting their strengths. He knows what they can do and he's booking to that. He says, this is what makes this girl, this is what's going to get her over. And that's what we're going to do. It's not just some guy saying, hey, go out there, do a hip toss, an arm drag, and a tackle, blah, blah, blah. He's working individual. He's not just producing matches. He's producing talent.
And that's it. And
developing he's coaching. Talent. He's doing a different thing, right?
And that's why people are getting behind these girls.
Yeah. And people are noticing like, oh, the women's matches are, they're different. They're better. Yeah. Look who's producing them and look at how, right? He's not a condescending producer. He's a teacher.
I couldn't agree more. And as you have said that, I have gone on record and will go on record from 1999 till this moment. The three greatest workers that I ever saw in my life were Harry, TJ, and Ted. All in their youth were pound for pound the greatest workers I've ever seen.
Yeah, they were unbelievable.
They could do it all, and their brain, the mental was. Now, granted, as they've got over, everybody seems to have branched off. Really hope Ted is doing okay, and congratulations to Harry if you watch this, and the family. Couldn't be happier to see Davey get in.
Yeah. Oh man, You're
Yeah, I'm
probably
there
another
with you.
guy that's like me.
I'm
Like
there with you, man.
I had some guy tried to get after me one day because somebody was talking about Hall of Fame. This is probably, I don't know, when I first joined Twitter, whenever that was a few years ago. And I replied to something and said, if Davey's not in the Hall of Fame, there shouldn't be a Hall of Fame. And this person is like, oh, how do you even say that? And I'm just like, okay, I appreciate it's a celebrity wing, but how many fucking tickets did Donald Trump sell?
Right.
Right. Like if Davey never did anything except sell out Wembley Stadium, that should have been enough.
Right there. Period.
Right. He held every belt. Like it's one of those things like people say, well, how come it took so long? I don't have an answer.
Politics.
Yeah. Like,
politics.
and that's all you can say. Right. But who, why, I have no idea, but it's just like, finally, because Jesus Christ, you know what I mean? Like now, well, I'm going to talk about something touchy because some people, I have taken some shit on this one. What do you think about Dynamite getting in specifically the WWE Hall of Fame?
He deserves to be there. Like as far as like, period. The Bulldogs were amazing. Okay, absolutely. And like Dynamite, the person, and this is let's delve into even touchier waters. Dynamite and Chris Benoit, the people, are not the same as Dynamite and Chris Benoit, the characters. Dynamite right. And Chris Benoit, the characters, right? Tom Billington is not Dynamite. Dynamite is a character. Johnny Devine is a character. JP is who I really am.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? Chris Benoit, while he used his real name, still a gimmick. Yeah. Who he was at home was not who he was on television. Okay. All these guys, they deserve their due. Now, granted, Martha blocks Owen stuff, but if there was anybody like, who wants to put up that argument, like nobody deserved to be in there more than Owen, now like with everybody essentially getting double entrance, the NWO and the
right.
Click and the blah, like how can you not do a Hart Foundation?
Right.
Mass entrance, like period. Yeah. That group was the fucking bomb.
Oh man, yeah, their run with Stone Cold and that was insane.
Like period, that group of talent. And then like yeah, Dynamite has a bad rep, but it doesn't take away from the body of work which made him a genius.
What's one thing I've kind of said, what you do outside the ring counts, and I've always kind of held that, but I always keep going back to, but they changed the business. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yep.
People can say what they want. Like you say, you have to, if you can separate somewhat Dynamite outside the ring versus Dynamite in the ring, if not for Dynamite, I probably never wrestle. Not because I wouldn't have wanted to or whatever, but because there wouldn't have probably been that opportunity for a guy my size.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So, and that in itself, I think, when you look at his body of work, I mean, obviously I got to assume if there's a Hall of Fame, he should be in it. WWE, to me, if there's one criteria I'm going to use to get him in there, it's how many tickets did they sell for a 5-year, 4-year run? Do you know what I mean? They were
right.
Hulk Hogan was over for sure, but people were packing those buildings to see the Bulldogs and Hart Foundation.
You betcha. You betcha.
And
they were.
That counts for something too, Chris,
absolutely.
I think, excuse me, just because I'll touch on the Benoit thing. His body of work stands for itself. But I think when you're a publicly traded company, that's a different thing. Do you know what I mean? Like
I get the PR nightmare that it is.
I don't envy anybody's position on either side of that debate, but I just think, man, when you're a $1 billion publicly traded company, you have to be really cautious.
Yeah,
associate,
that one it's not going to happen, but
yeah,
it won't ever happen. And that's
no, I don't think so. Whether it should or shouldn't isn't up to me, but his body of work, yes, but
legit,
that's let's put it this way. If it's my company, I don't want that fucking heat.
Well, and that's where do you stand on the fence? Do you believe he did it? Because I am on the fence that he didn't.
Right. To be totally honest with you, man, there's certain things I don't look into. Do you know what I mean? That to me is like, whether he did it or didn't do it, that's just such a sad thing. Right.
Yeah.
The same as I've never watched the Owen tragedy, and I'm sure there's a lot of people, I've never watched that. I've had no desire to, I've never seen that. So I just have no desire to put that stuff in there. Right. Yeah. But I think with the Benoit thing, there's definitely, I've heard some conspiracy theories, You know what I mean? But I definitely don't know enough to have an opinion, other than what would be the popular opinion.
Fair enough. And that, like, I was that then this Benoit only we're discussing. Period.
Yeah.
I was able to talk with like Chavo once, and like after talking with Chavo, I was like, okay, like there's just too many variables here for me to believe. And like having met Chris a couple of times, like I'm not going to say I was buddies with the guy kind of thing, because not like we would ever have coffee, but having met the guy, it's just the family man that he was, I can't see it.
Doesn't make sense.
It makes zero sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but hey, at this point, it's an old tale, and there's not like we're going to change anything. Right. But it's one of those things where, to me, again, if you're going to talk about Dynamite, you have to talk about Benoit, because they're essentially the same person when it comes down to work. You know what I mean? Like, Benoit tried so hard to be Dynamite that like he was, and
Benoit might have even elevated a bit. Do you know what I mean? He was a little
by the end, he different work style though. He wasn't taking any risks anymore, or less risks.
Yeah, right? Where Dynamite until he couldn't was taking some pretty wild risks.
And that's it. Like, too many concussions, I think, left his problem solving skills and his judgment skewed.
Yeah.
Too many bad choices.
Well, a lot of people, when it was real popular, that movie, The Wrestler, a lot of people would ask me about that movie. Mm-hmm. And they would say to me like, oh, how real is it? And I would kind of say like, the only thing to me in that movie that was askew was the guy selling them. He was buying steroids in the locker room.
Right.
I'd never seen that in any locker room I was in. But again, that was probably a testament to some of the guys we were working with, right? That weren't using steroids. But at the same time, it's kind of like everything else in that movie, like right up to the point where that guy is willing to sacrifice everything for that last shot at glory.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And people say, oh, it didn't end. No, that's exactly how it should have ended, because every one of us would have went out there and had that match.
You got it.
One of us.
Legit.
Like, it's even now, like, I quit wrestling. I think my last match was November 24th, 2018.
Okay.
And I still have the itch so bad. Like, COVID came at just the right time, because I was starting to feel real bad about not going to a show. And so it took that pressure off me.
Yeah, no, I understand completely. And that's having taken a sabbatical or a break, as it were, from like full timing it and whatever. I feel you. The itch is very real, and it does not go away ever. I go to, and this is high. I can't recommend it high enough. I go every year that I'm able to Cauliflower Alley now,
right?
Down in Vegas, to do the reunion stuff, and I high recommend it. You'll love it.
Is that right?
Bro, it's
that's one of those things like. Like, I barely know who I am. Nobody down there is going to know who I am. You know what I mean?
You're absolutely wrong. First of all, someone will, because that's the way marks are. And the freedom of information now, they all know who everybody is somehow. But more than that, it's not about fans. It's about the boys, and the boys going and on.
And that's what I miss more than anything, are the boys, right? And the girls, and the girls,
and the girls, the boys. But the thing about it is like it's that little bit of nostalgia that keeps you kind of like, oh yeah, and every year you go, you're like, oh, I should one more match.
There's one more in there.
Yeah, like it's one of those things that never goes away. And every year I see guys, every year they get older, every year I get older, but it's always the same thing. Oh, I'd still, I would. That's never gonna go away, man.
Is that right? Eh?
The great thing for a guy like you is you'll be able to call your shots with Kurt and be like, I'm going to come back and pop in and do whatever the fuck I want, as opposed to the regular guy out there going, hey, promoter, I'm 50 and it's been a while.
50.
But, you got a spot kind of thing.
You know how I knew it was time to quit wrestling? When I was holding my grandson and I said, okay, buddy, Grampy's got to go wrestle now. That's I was like, I gotta knock this stuff off, man. And then I had a match with like Chucky and BVD, and I actually worked twice. I worked BVD in the first match, and I worked Chucky carried me, MRB carried me through the main event.
Yeah.
That's probably COVID probably saved his career too, because I destroyed his back.
Oh no.
It was definitely proved to me that I could still hang with the main eventers.
Okay.
But how I felt after proved to me that I shouldn't.
Should not. Yes. You're no longer used to it. And that's,
oh man, I barely walked out of that building. Like, it was a tough drive home.
And that's, as you were saying earlier, what these people sitting on the couch schlepping beers and hot dogs don't fucking get is that when you're bumping every week, you are literally fucking scrap iron.
Yeah,
you could
exactly,
fucking pound. Sure. You could have punched me in the fucking gut all day and I wouldn't have sold.
Yeah, come get some.
Yeah, but then fucking a couple of months, weeks, years off. Oh wow, that bump. Oh my! I got up too fast.
Oh man, that's the other day. I stood up and I swear to God, I counted my age in clicks.
Yeah. I hear you. I'm right there with you.
Yeah,
level 47 coming up.
But you know what? I still feel pretty good, I think. You know what I mean? Like, my back's a little stiff. My shoulders bug me. My neck bugs me. But I can still run.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, if somebody's chasing me, I could probably get away.
And so, don't deny yourself the joy of something that you truly find love from. That's one of those things, right? Like, my last few years, there's been a lot of self-reflection on stuff, things I do and don't want to do, how did it go, good, bad, ugly, blah, blah, blah. Right. Like injury wise, I could always pull the sob story card and curl into a ball and turn into a depressive asshole who's 400 pounds and hates the world. Or I can keep soldiering on doing shit that I love doing and fucking people hate me, love me. I don't give a fuck anymore. As long as I enjoy doing it, I don't give a fuck what they think.
Exactly.
And
that's what people don't understand. Not giving a fuck is freedom.
Well, it is.
Right? People think, oh, that's a shitty attitude. Oh, no, man, that's freedom.
But at the same time, it isn't, because people hate you for it.
Right. They hate your freedom.
Well, fuck that guy. Who does he think he is?
Yeah.
I don't know. Somebody who doesn't give a fuck what you think.
I don't give a fuck.
That's who I think I am.
Yeah. And even as you're saying that, I'm like, you know what? When you make that statement and the guy's going to go, what's that? And I go, yeah, I don't give a fuck. And that's going to upset him even more.
Exactly. And that's so those people, they don't get it and they don't like you. And that's why, like, whenever I meet new people, it's always interesting because I'm like, me, I'm an overwhelming personality, right? I'm what I call a 50-50 guy. People are fucking love me or they fucking hate me.
You can be polarizing.
Right? Well, and that's, and sometimes I turn the love me's into the hate me's because they ask stupid questions and get stupid answers. Do you know what I mean? You play stupid games, you get stupid prizes.
Sure enough, man.
So like that ability for a lot of people is really intimidating and brings out a lot of fear, and they hate the possibility that you could undress them with a word.
Yeah.
And it terrifies them. It terrifies them that you're going to use your honesty on them. Right. So like, I can't even count the number of times throughout my career where I've met people who are like, fuck, you are totally not what I was told you would be. And I was like, oh, what were you told I would be?
Who told you?
Yeah. I kind of told you'd be a bit of an asshole and blah. I'm like, oh no, they're right.
Yeah.
Whoever
Push
they
me the
are,
wrong way and see what you get.
Whoever they are, whatever they said.
Yeah.
They're right. Because I probably was a fucking asshole to them.
Well, I seen a beautiful meme the other day, and it says people always want to talk about my reaction. They never want to talk about what caused it.
Right.
Like, and I'm the first to admit I'm a reactionary human being, and sometimes to the point of over so. Right. But you never have to wonder. Like, my wife knows exactly. And after 25 years of dealing with my bullshit, she can know exactly what's going to set me off. Yeah. She's, I don't know what, like, there's not a prize big enough, man. There's not a prize big enough, but she can probably tell faster than I do when someone's saying something that's going to set me off. You know what I mean? Because it's just, and she knows, and it's always the same thing. And it's usually people being like not courteous rude,
condescending,
disrespectful to somebody. If you're rude to a server in front of me, man, that's a fight on site. Like I do not tolerate that shit.
Legit.
Oh, I've stepped
Those
in line.
people deal with so much.
I've called people out in line at Sobeys. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like, don't
legit,
be
all
bringing
the
your
time.
shitty attitude to this lady's job.
I like to embarrass a Karen every now and then.
Yeah,
it's one of my favorite things.
And I also like to think that if I'm being a dick, hopefully someone calls me out, because it's not like I'm perfect. Every now and then I might overreact.
Legit.
Right?
My friends know that they can tell me anything. Like, hey, you're being a fucking douche. Okay, fair enough. Why?
Yeah,
right? What did I do? Okay, so that I can learn and not do it again, and or turn up the volume on it in case I need to.
Yeah, well, that'll piss you off. Okay. You know what I mean? Well, and it's, you have it as a human. I was talking to somebody about religion a little while ago, and I said, with say like the homosexuality in the Bible. Well, you have a responsibility to maintain an open mind and change it with new information.
Legit.
You know what I mean? And you and I think there was a time in our lives maybe we weren't as open-minded as we are today. But sitting here talking to you now, I can definitely tell in the last, I think I met you in what, 97? 97. So yeah, so we're talking now 24 years.
Yep.
Right? Like that's a long time. And I could tell that, man, obviously after that, but your mind's a lot more open. And like you say, you're probably more like me than we realize, in that I bet you're simply a trampoline, and that you give me exactly what I give you. If you act like a dick, that's exactly what you're getting back. And if you treat me like the nicest person in the world, that's exactly what you're getting back.
Exactly. And that's my rule has been ever since I was in the bars and bouncing. My rule is always be nice twice. If by the third time they don't want to be nice back, it's time not to be nice. And I am a professional bad guy. So I can for sure.
Yeah.
I legit almost had business cards made that said professional bad guy, piss me off at your peril.
That's dynamite. You should put that on a t-shirt, Devine.
Legit. That is, like, people don't get it. They think, well, I can fuck with that little guy. He's pretty. And it's like, man, test me and find out. Yeah. Like, you're totally barking up the wrong tree.
Well, and the thing, what happens is those people don't realize that you are tested, right? You're battle tested from assholes like that coming at you your whole fucking life.
Constantly.
Right? So they don't understand.
Every fucking day.
Yeah. What are you doing?
Like today.
Really?
Legit. I kid you not, man. Daily. Like, skip a day or two here or there, but fucking daily. Can't go to the grocery store. Can't go to the fucking like regular places. People are just fucking unbelievable.
Yeah. Every day people diminish my faith in people. There's a bright moment that kind of fills you back up. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's like, what upsets me is I'm a partsman for a big company. And a lot of times I order the part and then I go pick the part up. So I drive a lot. Okay. And nothing has diminished my faith in humanity more than watching how people act in their cars. Yeah. People are such dicks.
Such pieces of shit.
And it's just like the only thing separating you and I is metal. And you're probably, fortunately today, the doors lock automatically, but there's times legit. I thought if I just could come open your door and scream in your ear for a second.
Legit.
Right. Legit. And I have done. I'm not proud of it, but I could probably go road rage story with anybody. I've got a numerous, and people say, well, it's rage. No, I never want to fight that person. I'm not getting out of my car to fight that guy. I'm getting out of my car to tell him, to make sure, like, hey, you gave me the finger, and now I'm going to tell you you're a fucking asshole to your face, because I'm not scared in my car flipping you off.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to get out of your car and do something about it, well, I'm your huckleberry.
Exactly. I'm your huckleberry. Exactly. I'm happy to dance.
Yeah. Having said that, I'm almost 50. I don't get out of the car too much anymore.
I feel you. I almost did 2 days ago.
I
had a guy run a red light. I'm at a light. Guy ran a red light to get in front of me. And then because the light is turning green and I'm going, because I moved at the same time as him.
Right.
He gave me the finger and then slowed down to 10 kilometers an hour.
See, and that's, I follow that guy to his driveway. Like, I'm just kidding,
bro. And like, I almost, like, it was, and so like I waited, and then I drove around him. I got in front of him
Right.
because he was being such a dick. Like I waited and waited, faked him out, and blah, fucking got in front of him.
Had the cat.
And then I waited. Well, and then I waited at the light, and I'm like, pull up, motherfucker, pull up, and say one thing, and I will pop out of this car and I will run you over with your own. Yeah. Legit, it was in my mind.
And so I was actually listening to somebody about why people like us get pissed off like this, especially in the car. Because I don't do that.
It's
walking
because
through the
we
store.
would never do it.
Well,
it's because
if I did it, I would honestly, if I cut you off like that, well, first of all, I wouldn't. I'd miss my turn before I would do that. I want to be clear about that. But I would also like I've cut people off before because I'm not a perfect driver. And the first day I cut this guy off once and literally had no idea where the guy came from. It was like he dropped out of the sky to behind me.
Okay.
I pulled back over into the other lane, slowed down beside him, and went, "I'm so sorry."
Right?
You know what I mean? Like I didn't shoulder check. I had no idea you were there.
That's as Canadian as it gets.
Yeah.
Right.
Instead, nowadays,
that's you and that's me.
Yeah. That guy cuts me off. I'm like, beep, beep, flips me off. Well, what do you think's going to happen when you tell somebody to fuck off? Right. Like, and normally you probably tell lots of people to fuck off and they don't hold you accountable.
Yeah. And that's it.
And what's missing
sometimes.
Hey, I'm going to tell a funny story about accountability.
Sure.
About pro wrestling accountability. And you're the star of the show.
Crap.
So there was a time I wasn't wrestling and I was at a PWA show, and I'm going to name his name because we're friends now. It's sort of a funny story. And I was walking by BVD and Scott Lee crew. Okay. And as I'm walking by, I kind of just hear the back, sort of like, "Oh, Duke Durango cat dick." Like I didn't catch it. And I turn around and BVD's looking at me, goes, "I didn't say anything, Jordy. I didn't say anything, Jordy. I didn't say anything, Jordy." And Scott Lee crew, I met him that night. Like I'd never met him before. And so I just kind of give him a few slaps on the back of the neck. And I'm like, when you don't know somebody, you should probably be really careful. And I go to Kurt and I say, "Hey man, go talk to that kid, because if this wasn't your locker room, I'd be kicking him from one side of this fucking place to the next."
Yeah. Yeah.
And apparently it got back to you. And then fast forward, not that long after, there's a battle royal in Edmonton.
Oh, now I remember. Yeah.
And apparently, you taught Scott Lee crew a real lesson for mouthing off Duke Durango.
Yeah. Oh, one of my favorites. Because there was a photo. Of him going like, and I'm literally like chopping the soul out of him.
And again,
and the photo is his face like, and he tried to run away, and I'm like, "Nah, get back here, motherfucker."
Battle royal, you're not going anywhere.
You weren't eliminated. I put you out through the middle rope.
Oh man.
Right? And I put him back in the ring, and it was.
Yeah,
I remember that.
That's the accountability, right?
And that's somebody's always got to check people's cards.
Yeah, man.
And this is one of the things that the business now lacks is somebody to check cards.
Yeah.
Right, because ultimately somebody's wrestler card needs to be pulled and fucking shelved. There's nobody left to do it anymore, and you're not allowed to do it anymore because
that's what I was going to say. You're not allowed to do it because somebody's going to fill out a hurt feelings report.
Exactly.
Right, like the thing is, like the other part of the problem too. There's, you and I prided ourselves on trying to have good matches, and we'd go on the mat in the back, and people would be like, "Hey, Devine and Durango, that was a really good match." And then we'd be like, fuck, we could have done this better. We should have done that. Sorry, buddy, I blew this spot. You know what I mean? No one else knew it but us.
Yeah.
I don't think that shit happens anymore. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot of people blowing a lot of sunshine up each other's asses right now.
Oh, no, that was great, man. That was awesome. I've never been in a better match. But meanwhile, when they're in the car with their buddies, shit all over the guy. And that's
exactly
like, here's a super touchy subject for me now. Just to let us touch on something. You were super lucky in so much as your riding buddies were always the loyal type.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
You had good fucking car buddies. I, over the years, have chosen poorly with riding buddies, and thus find myself in a, riderless, buddyless.
I was always smoking pot. I was driving with the potheads.
Well, and so I wish I had. Fuck. It would have fucking changed my career trajectory greatly, I assure you.
Oh,
that's one of those things I wish I'd taken up earlier. So like when you've got good bros who are having your back in locker rooms where a Scott Lee crew is talking shit, well, that's not flying in the fucking locker room
Yeah.
that I'm in, you know, or any locker room where I am, where somebody talks shit about my guys, just doesn't fucking happen.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the same I can't say, right? Guys like Vinny and fucking, you know, one after the other went by the wayside, where, you know, the
Just sewer in the brother.
love of the business or whatever, you know, if fly by night. And then now it's, you know, flash forward 20 years later, and like, you know, guys who used to have my back can't do anything but talk shit about me.
Right.
Guys who were my fucking riding bros have nothing nice to say about me because I'm too fucking big time or blah, blah, blah. But meanwhile, every interaction that we've had over the last 10 years has been me reaching out and getting, you know, oh yeah, I'll get back to you, and fucking nothing.
Getting the kayfabe on the return.
You know, and it's like, okay, you know, fuck yourself. Right. Like, all right.
Well,
you've made your choices.
You know, as I found, as I've gotten older, the circle has certainly gotten smaller. Yeah, for sure. Right. Like, if, you know, I've always said, like, if you can get out of the wrestling business, and actually I didn't always say it, somebody told me and I stole it, but if you can get out of the wrestling business with 5 people that you can count on, you've done well.
Really
and those
well.
5 people, for me, to some degree, I mean, you're one of the guys that, like I say, I mean, we had that competitive tension, but there was always that respect where, like, I can fuck with Devine, but I won't let you fuck with Devine. Do you know what I mean? Right. Like, it was always that kind of, and that's how I was always very protective. And that's, I even said, I admitted it. Like, I was very snobby and protective of us guys that came out of the dungeon. Like, if somebody that didn't come out of the dungeon would have talked shit about Johnny Devine, I'd been like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, in fact, there was actually an incident, and you've done so much for me, and I want to make sure you understand I was there for you in one instance.
Oh, thank you.
Well, and I still, looking back, I probably didn't do enough, but you had come to a PWA show, and there was some heat there. Do you remember this? It was at the Century Casino.
Yeah, where I get kicked out of the company
Right.
that I'm fucking part of the fucking Hall of Fame of.
And some people come to me and say, hey, Devine's in the crowd, blah, blah, blah. Will you come with and talk to him? No. No, I got nothing. Nope. Devine can do whatever he wants, man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to fucking do anything.
And again, I didn't have enough pull in that locker room to stop anything, but I certainly wasn't fucking going to be part of it. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, no, I'm not going out there. You guys are on your own. Don't fuck with the ball.
Those are exactly the kind of fucking friends that I'm talking about, where it's like, oh, fucking, they're your friend and they need you, and fucking, hey, can you do these shows for me on fucking less money than we've promised you, over and over and over again. And when you hold us up for the minimum of what we promised you, as opposed to the maximum of what we promised you, you're a fucking asshole for asking the money that you are rightfully promised for doing the work that you have fucking completed.
Well, I've always said, if you agree to the price, pay the man, period.
Well,
right?
and
a deal's
so,
a deal.
For me to go to a show that I am part of the quote unquote fucking Hall of Fame of, and be asked to leave for any reason, is absolutely beyond fucking reprehensible.
Yeah.
Those two fucks,
I don't disagree.
Those two fucks know, and haven't contacted me since, because they're terrified of what I'll say. And this is what I'll say. I don't give a fuck. You're fucking 50 fucking fans. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Okay. Your 100 fans in Edmonton. I couldn't give 2 fucks missing the show. But what I miss is the fact that you, not you, Jordy.
Yeah.
They, who I'm looking at, who are fucking watching this, and you know they are. You fucks have fucked up in so much as you took your most loyal soldier and you fucking turned him against you, and he never comes back. In fact, you're lucky if you're on the same side of the street, he doesn't fucking punch your teeth down your throat.
That ain't worth it. That ain't
Well,
I appreciate where you're coming from.
Some knives stay in your back.
That's, I can appreciate
and when
that.
When somebody who is your fucking brother knifes you in the back,
that's stiff. That's
okay. Then it's gonna stay, and it ain't coming out. It ain't coming out. It's there for life.
And there was a lot of, again, I'm not defending anybody, because if I
And
would have thought it
here's-
was, sorry, go ahead.
Well, and here's the caveat. Whatever was said about me, my real friends know the truth and thus don't give a fuck. But anybody who believed anything bad said about me, you know where you are now.
Well, I mean, like I say, I mean, I've known you for, let's just simply say most of
4
my
years.
adult life, right? Really and truly, most of my adult life. And I've never known you to be anything but a straight shooter. You're an honest guy. You show up when you say you're going to show up. You show up on time. You show up in good shape. You're a professional. That's not to say,
I can't be hard to deal with, because I can.
well, you know what, man? When you're a man of principle and people are not, it's tough to tolerate. Right. And that's,
you get it. You get it.
I mean,
they don't like to deal with us.
I put hands on a promoter once because he didn't pay me. Like, I'm not proud of that, but I did it. Do you know what I mean? And he's somebody that I respect and admire, but you didn't pay me, and now I feel disrespected. So I get that.
Yep.
Right. I understand that fucking irritation.
Well, and
to
it's,
put it mildly.
When it happens once, it's an accident. When it happens twice, it's like, okay, now it's getting ridiculous. When it's 3 times or more, it's a pattern.
Now it's a personal thing. Yeah, I get
right.
that.
And so if the respect was actually there, would it continue? No.
Yeah, it would have stopped after the first time. Right.
Right. So like in this instance, i.e. with heat for whatever reason, well, nobody bothered to call me or talk to me or text me or ask me a question. Simply walked over to me and said, hey man, we got to ask you to leave. Well, you're making your ex-wife feel nervous. Like, why? Because I'm sitting in a fucking crowd. Right. For what?
Yeah.
I've never put my hands on her. We've never had a crossword. We've never even in 5 years had an argument. Why would I make anybody nervous?
And
why would I be asked to leave?
I certainly don't have, like, I don't have heat with her. Obviously, she's never been anything but nice and kind to me. But at the same time, that was like one of those, like, hey, I ain't going out there to fuck with Johnny Devine, man. Him and I go way back, period. That's that.
And that, like, the simple fact that those fucks had the balls to ask me to leave a show that I helped build, and you know that to be true.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is not a slap in the face. It's kicking the balls. And there's no coming back from a kick in the balls. A slap I can let go, but you kick me in the balls, now it's a fight.
Yeah, well, it just comes back to a fundamental lack of respect, right?
And so, like for Ivan and Kurt to have done these things is absolutely reprehensible. And for them to have done it with a guy who helped build their fucking company makes it even worse.
It's more so why, like, it was again, to maybe oversimplify it, fucking politics.
And so this is the condition of my life, is like, I do things and it's not like I do them out of malice or whatever. I went to a fucking show with my friends. I brought 2 guys and paid fucking money to a show that I should be able to walk into as a Hall of Fame member.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to pay to even go to that show. And
I bought a fucking ticket.
Yeah, so that was a fucked up. That was a fucked up situation. Period.
And that's, all too often shit that I deal with.
Right.
Like, people consistently, as you have seen, heard, and are probably fairly aware, because you're not like a 6-foot behemoth yourself. So like large
bigger
people,
than we.
Well, large people like to fuck with small people.
Yeah.
So I am consistently fucked with. And people are like, oh, you're so prickly. Well, yeah, it's because I'm consistently fucked with. Yeah. So if I wasn't, I wouldn't be so prickly. But I'm pretty nice to most.
Well, even last summer, I mean, at this company, I work in construction, so there's a lot of tough guys. And of course, one of them kind of said something. This guy he's a big, heavy guy, no less than 250. And he said something kind of to me, and he's like, I kind of sassed him back, just shot a one-liner back at him. And he's like, what's that, small fry? And I looked at him, I was like, small fry, don't think you're going to be the biggest fucking pork chop I ever ate. Do you know what I mean? And he's like, did you just call me fat? I was like, take it for what it's worth, man. I just started laughing and walked away.
legit. And that's like legit.
Right?
Like people consistently got to test the boundaries of what they can get away with you. And it's like, after a while, it gets old. And like anybody
I
who
fired the
knows,
warning shot that hits you. That's what
and that's
said.
it. There you go.
You weren't expecting that to hit you, but it did.
But it hits.
Right?
And that's because you're a professional bad guy.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
you take
I say
5 seconds.
We say the shit most people are too scared to say.
Exactly.
That's the truth. Right.
And that's exactly.
You can't say that. Oh, I fucking can, and I'm going to.
I just did.
Exactly.
Now what?
Yeah, you can't say that. I did, and I'll say it again too. Just because I'm going to say it just because you said I can't.
I'll say it a third time, just extra loud.
Yeah, and then I'm going to beat the shit out of you just to prove I can.
And that's the thing. Like, the frustration of my career has been 50% are guys like you who are like, fuck, man, we get along so good. We have the same mindset. We have great chemistry. We have great matches. The other half is, oh, that guy thinks he's so tough, or why is he so mean, or what, he's trying to hurt me. Like, no, if I was trying to hurt you, you'd be fucking hurt.
A lot of those guys are betas, man. Like, I don't consider myself an alpha per se, but those are just betas. They just don't get it.
But that's unfortunately, that's the business is filled with them now.
Oh, now. Oh, yeah.
You know,
oh, yeah.
And and this is my favorite equation in this is, when you and I started out, okay, regional wrestling was still kind of a thing, but coming to a close.
Right.
Okay. So you had the influx of 2000s indie scene where every fucking city had 5 indies pop up because anybody could buy a ring, and off they ran.
You bet.
And so, like, you have the blind leading the blind everywhere, right? You have fucking shit show after shit show everywhere. So after a time when, like, nuggets of gold or diamonds, whatever you want to call them, in the rough, you know, pop up, like us, right? It became a thing where as I was traveling, I could pick out that fast, you know, who was going to stay and who's going to go, who's going to last, and who wasn't going to go. Right. So after a point, like, I'm dealing with the same archetype of people over and over and over again. Right.
Yeah.
And so you have 2 kinds of promoters in professional wrestling.
Oh.
You have the ex-worker, right, at this point, who wants to do their own thing, probably the champion of their own company,
right?
You know, book all the boys that they like and do their own regional little thing. But then you have the rich fat kid who has his dad's money, who got an inheritance or got some kind of accident claim or whatever, who dumps about 40 to 60K into a promotion that fails within a year because they're fucking hiring their buddies and the guys who know what's going on, who have fucking no clue about business or wrestling or the wrestling business and how it makes money. But we want to be wrestlers, so we're going to start our promotion, and we've got this, that, and a graphics guy, and I got a good poster guy. So now everybody thinks I'm the greatest promotion ever because I got a decent poster guy.
Yeah, I got a good poster.
Meanwhile, we're drawing 15 to 30 fans a show, and, you know, like, those are your 2 kinds of promoters out there now. Your wrestler and your fat kid.
One thing I laugh about, and this, I don't want to piss on any promoters out there, but I always laugh at these guys like, oh, you got to go poster. Okay, listen, I walk around a lot of streets, like a lot, in places like, you know, Kensington and 17th Avenue, where there's a lot of posters. And you know how many of those posters I read? Not one of those posters. I could give a fuck what's on that poster pole. If I'm standing outside a store waiting for my wife or something, I might read the poster pole.
Yeah.
But I can also tell you, I've never gone to a show that I seen on a poster pole unless it was at the Republic.
And that's legit. Band show, absolutely. Wrestling show, not a
shit. Skin burns at the Republic. Okay, I'm going to the Republic. That'd be about it.
Yeah. And that's the mistake that, like, well, and that's, again, you have the blind leading the blind. You have, excuse me, a bunch of guys who don't know business, who don't know wrestling, who have no idea how to get asses in seats, let alone keep them there. Right. So they do the bare minimum, the Facebook, the Insta, the whatevers. And then, and we're postering, or maybe we took out a newspaper ad because so many people read newspapers. Or maybe we did a radio run. Like, okay, the radio's not a bad idea, but at the same time, worth it? Probably not. Right?
It's tough, man.
And that's
like
promoting. And part of the reason I never did it is because it is so challenging.
Yeah. People don't realize how easy it is to lose money, man.
So easy. So easy. And that's like, I give Kurt all the respect in the world for keeping his company up and going as long as he has.
Yeah,
Good
he's
on
done
him
well
for that. And that's any of these guys like Massive or fucking Squiggy or Danny Duggan in Winnipeg or
he's doing some
the guys,
good shit, man.
Unfortunately the guys in Regina shut it down, but I mean, up until recently, the guys out on the West Coast, anybody who's keeping their fucking company up and afloat, especially during COVID and whatnot, good on you. At the same time, and this is my caveat to that, at the same time, are you really a benefit to the business if your crowd isn't growing? If you're the same 50 fans every week.
I see what you're saying, but I am going to push back a little bit in that simply when you look at some of the guys that have gone through those territories that have gone on to the WWE. Do you know what I mean? And that's not all of them. I'm being a little bit biased with that being my caveat because those I know I've worked in those promotions, right? But even ECCW most recently, the Singh brothers that are in the WWE, were they not? So those these guys, some of these promoters walk around like
places to work. Absolutely.
Yeah, and some of these guys walk around like they're mini Vince McMahons, and I fuck those guys. Like, let's be, well, I'm the Vince McMahon of Alberta. You're not the fucking Timothy Flowers of anything. You know what I mean? Shut the fuck up.
Right.
And I don't, Timothy Flowers, I've never met him. So sorry, that name just came out of my mouth. So sorry, Timothy Flowers, if you're offended.
Well, and that's, also, Tim was at least a successful promoter for a time.
Right.
So,
I actually tried to
compare Vince McMahon and Tim Flowers. Is
how there was always those promotional wars, like, if you work here, you can't work there. The first place I ever heard that was Vancouver. Kenny Johnson told me, call these guys, they'll book you. And I don't know if he put me over to Tim Flowers and Michelle Starr, but both of them said when I called them, if you're going to go work for him, you can't come work here. So I never went to work for either of them.
There you go.
Those are the first guys that ever, but I heard they'd have there was actual heat there. It wasn't just a promotional thing. I heard there was actual heat there.
Yeah, there was legit heat. And Squig's done that. Kurt's done that. Every promoter at some point kind of pulls that card. The Stampede pulled that card with me with Can-Am.
I pulled it. Well, Stampede was the first started doing it with us. With WCEW, when I was there, I made the rule you can work anywhere, just not in the same city. Do you know what I mean? And if it comes down to a competing night and you go there, well, you're not coming back here.
Yeah, you've made your choice.
That simple. Yeah. So, and that was always my because but even now I kind of feel differently. I'm not a promoter, so it's easier for me to say this, but even, if Johnny Devine's over and he's selling, 300 tickets a night and he's going to work for RCW one night and selling 150 tickets there and then coming over here, well, maybe the people from RCW are going to come to our show too. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't know if I was too young to see that logic or, what I mean, but that was something that didn't come to me till a little bit later.
The ability to see the bigger picture is not a promoter trait.
I think some of it is this, and this is probably going to sound bad, but the other thing is I also maybe underestimated the financial position of the wrestling demographic, and that most of those guys can't afford 2 shows a month would be my mentality, right? Whether that's right or wrong, that's debatable, but that would honestly be my mentality.
No. And that's what happens is when these guys get into these little pissing contest wars interpromotionally, they end up splitting what is 50 people.
Yeah.
You've only got a group of 100 max that are your hardcore rabid fan base. Yeah. So now you've already split them into 50-50 as opposed to combining your efforts so that 100 come to each of your shows.
Exactly.
But hey, why work together? Well, fuck that guy. Well, and that's Caesar mentality. Everybody wants to be the Caesar. Everybody wants to be the leader. Everybody wants to be it's going to be my ship and I'll do it different and I'll make a difference.
The other thing is they're all like, well, what do they bring to the table? Like, what do any of us bring to the table? We're drawing 150 people. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
You know, and to me, AEW and Impact, right? If those guys can work together, figure it out, folks.
And so like every company should be able to work together. Like,
should be able to do at least one super show a year.
As I've said, I'm not a promoter. That's not my thing. I'm not out there glad handing people like, but you put me in a match, I guarantee every person that's there will want to come back and see me the next show.
Right.
Right. There will be somebody walking out going, that Divine guy, I'm going to go back and see him for sure.
Yeah.
Right. But the promoters tend to forget the value of the traveled guys and they want to keep their roster, you know, well, that's my guy, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, okay, well, Ric Flair, when he was the hottest, was in every fucking regional promotion there was.
Absolutely.
And most times, half the time, putting guys over.
Yeah.
You know, via DQ, via whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then they put over Flair in the end, but at the same time in the beginning, a good heel is there to establish that baby face. And that's promoters lost that because they didn't know it. So now you have a whole generation of promoters who don't understand that that's how business gets done.
Well, not only that, you've got the biggest promoter in the world now saying wins and losses don't count.
Exactly.
Or so when wins and losses don't count, how do you build a guy?
Right.
Nothing
he does makes any difference. So
yeah, like you're trying to push him to the moon, but he loses every match. How does that make any sense?
And so like the counterculture mentality that it's all become, where we're trying to do things counter to what people think is going to happen so that we can surprise them.
Swerve
has just made it fucking stupid.
Yeah, we got to swerve them. Swerve the fans.
But meanwhile, now you notice AEW has put the emphasis back on the right syllables. So the emphasis now is back on wins and losses. Yeah. And what do you know? Now it means something to be first,
much so that it's in your entrance, right?
Well, and that's it. And so they've gone the exact opposite route. And now you watch, and this is simply my opinion, but it's shown to be right just by NXT stopping and this past Wednesday past getting, I think it was 1.2 million or 1.7 million viewers, right? They're already over the million mark. They'll hit on Tuesday, no problem. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Their YouTube channel is killing it. It will be no time before they're up to 3 and 4 million again, because people will tune in, because there's now going to be interest created, because they treat it like a sport.
Well, and not only that, going back to our point, you're not splitting the audience on Wednesday night. I bet you'll see AEW start popping, because I don't think they've crested 1 million viewers yet.
Well, that was them.
That was at 1.2,
1.2, 1.7, whichever it was. I just remember the outline. And 2 or 7.
Well, maybe I screwed up what you said. But so to me, that's
NXT will do the same thing now as well.
Absolutely. You know? The biggest, I think sometimes I look at NXT and think, okay, this is a bit of a slicker production.
Oh, that's a way
better show. The work rate on
NXT is a 10 times better show than Raw or SmackDown. But most of my friends are on Raw and SmackDown, but
AEW, man, their work rate is through the roof compared, right?
And that is going to change the perception of the business again.
Yeah, I think so.
Right? Because consider the cyclical nature of what we do, right? So the business just goes around in circles. It's up, it's down. I think
it's on its way up right now.
Well, and people have been like, oh no, it's the highest it's been, blah, blah, blah. No.
It's still on its way up.
It's been in the low part. It's just going up now. Yeah. With the interpromotional stuff that's going on right now, the ability to really put 100,000 people in an arena is there again. Do you know what I mean?
These promotions right now, with when the pandemic ends, these guys have
packed.
They'll have to be fucking up so bad to not sell out the arenas.
Legit.
You know what I mean? Legit. If you can't sell out every arena you go to for the next year, you're booking or something. Something's
wrong.
Shit.
Something's wrong.
You should be able to. So let's move on to what you're doing now.
Okay. So I'm still coaching and personal training and doing all that kind of stuff. Like
Right.
being back in Calgary now, in the climate that it's in.
Yeah. And now that I know you're back in town, we'll be harassing you once things open up. Obviously you're gonna be over to the house, barbecues.
Fuck yeah, bro.
Yeah, man. I'm so mad I didn't know you were here.
It's okay. It's not your fault. Like I've been fabing. That's on me. And that's
Right.
you know, like I'm super down low now because I just like I'm done peopling. You know,
I get it. I get it.
And so now that I'm back here, there is opportunity to do a whole bunch of stuff coming up.
Right.
I'm working with a couple of friends on a production company, essentially a small production company, to develop some YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok stuff that advertising revenue wise will make us some okay money, like YouTube money, blah blah blah, like
right
stuff. But my yeah, and you're gonna laugh, but my number one reason that I'm back, and this is ridiculous, is to play Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, I seen you put on Facebook. Now I'm not gonna laugh because when I was a young kid, my oldest brother was Joe. He had milk crates full of Dungeons and Dragons hardcover books.
That was
Dungeon Masters manuals, all that shit.
Yeah, that was me back in the day.
I'm not laughing, man. If that's it, I'm not laughing at all.
So I've been denied my nerdism for about, I want to call it 8 years, 10 years almost.
Okay.
Well, let's call it 2013, 14 was last real time that I gamed properly.
Okay.
Right. So I've been missing, like, jonesing for my nerd fix forever. So a couple of buddies of mine offered the opportunity to like do some Dungeons and Dragons stuff. And like in our talks, we were like, well, if we're doing all this other stuff with this production company stuff, why don't we film the Dungeons and Dragons too? Fuck yes. So we're going to be putting out a Dungeons and Dragons game content on YouTube that's going to feature some fun stuff. And like, much like anything else, YouTube is now, you know, like much like a podcast is free radio.
Right. I love it.
YouTube is free television.
Right. For sure.
But the difference now is I have a broadcasting degree and I can do some slick shit.
Okay.
And so we can dress this up a little bit.
Production value is
pretty. And we can make it pretty and do some stuff, or at the very least, you know, not pretty, but at the very least better than the average Joe.
Right.
And do something. There's a group out there called Critical Role who have like 3.2 million followers on YouTube.
Wow.
And yeah. And like, it's all voice actors playing Dungeons and Dragons. That's all it is.
Voice
acting. Like, yeah.
That'd be a fun gig.
Well, and that's, you know, like voice acting is awesome. It's easy. Right. Like it's fucking super fun and easy.
Right.
But like, consider your theatrical skills, which you may not know you have theatrical skills, but as a professional wrestler, we are nothing but paid stunt.
Well, you may not know I've been in 2 plays.
Ah, yes.
I was dog shit, but I was in them.
So we're essentially, according to the big book, we're actors and stunt performers.
Okay.
Right? We performed on a weekly scripted television episodic program.
Okay. Yeah.
Did you not? Every week?
For many moons.
Did. Exactly. Me too. Right. And so you are an actor. And the great thing about already being an actor, in so much as when we're given entertainment roles, we fucking run with them.
Right.
So like getting into any character for this is just so fucking easy and fun. And it's like you're hanging out with your buddies. So now it's just us like taking, you know, our goofiness to the next level kind of shit. And
that
now,
sounds fun, man.
The difference here and what's going to set us apart, I believe, and this is my, you know, like the cherry on top of the sundae kind of thing, is we're going to incorporate LARPing, which is live action role play,
right,
to the gaming. So we're going to go out to the mountains in costume and shoot a bunch of shit. We're going to do some scenarios and like, you know, some deep forest, some caves, some pools, some blah, where we do some action shots and some haha.
Oh, I bet there's a huge audience for that right now.
Huge, bro. And we add in a couple of graphics and some, you know, special effects, like cheese special effects, but even still hilarious.
Cheese has its place, and I'll fight anyone that says it doesn't.
legit. And so like that kind of stuff is hot right now. And it's like,
Nice.
I can seriously play Dungeons and Dragons for a living. Okay, I'll do that.
That's how I watch yourself. That's how I fell into pro wrestling.
I was like, you can do this for money now?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Well, and I was just kind of thinking like, well, Jesus, if people are paying to watch guys are making millions of dollars playing Madden. And I'd probably be more interested in D&D than watching somebody play Madden.
And so let's take a half step back here. March of 2020, when COVID hits and the world shuts down, and like the gym that I'm at shuts down, and everything that I'm doing in Vancouver shuts down.
Oh, gross.
I'm literally in this basement apartment by myself, like 24/7, 7 days a week. No real circle out there,
Right.
So it's a lot of solitary time. What am I gonna do? Well, I guess I could learn things. Or I could play Call of Duty. Let's do that. I've played fucking
but did you not have to learn to
play
play Call of Duty?
Well, yes. So I did learn.
The benefit is twofold.
Well, and so last summer, a kid won $3 million playing Call of Duty.
Are you serious?
One game, $3 million.
How long does the game last?
One tournament, fucking 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
Holy shit.
That's some money, dude.
Good for him.
Like tournament, yeah, you had to survive, blah, blah, blah. But all I'm saying is if video gaming is now competitive as well and you can make money at it.
Yeah.
Like, where was this 30 years ago when I was a child? Yeah. I would have been fucking.
My mom was telling me I wouldn't amount to anything.
Super Tecmo Bowl champion of the world right here. I'm telling you.
You can't. Tecmo Bowl was so awesome. And Blades of Steel.
Bro. Fucking hockey fights. That was so good.
Blades
right? Imagine how great we would have been as those if they'd had that as.
Oh, man. Shield. All right. Now tell the people how they can get a hold of Johnny Devine for personal training. How about that?
Well, okay. So
you too can be personally trained by Hotshot Johnny Devine.
I'm always available on Facebook. My Facebook page is Johnny Devine. It's no longer Hotshot, though. I actually handed that name off to Danny Duggan, who gets as much heat as I used to get as
I'm very sorry. I apologize.
Okay. That's okay. I am now the Silver Badger.
I don't care. You'll always be Hotshot to me.
That is so many people. I can't call you anything but Hotshot. Like, okay, yeah. I get it. That's
I bet the Highlander thinks that's what's on your birth certificate.
I'm positive. He couldn't. I don't think he knows my real name. He knows my mom's real name, right?
I wouldn't let him know my mom's name. Not pretty.
But they can always get me on Facebook. But if personal training is the deal, check out Facebook page because it's the only website I keep up anymore, which is Superhero Sweat Lab, which is the business name.
Nice.
And Instagram at Canadian Silver Badger, Twitter at Canadian Silver Badger, CDN Silver Badger.
Okay.
Right, is
nice.
The tag, and then Facebook Johnny Devine as always.
Right on, buddy. I'm going to let you out of here. I've already ate up 2 hours of your night. Thank you so much for coming on, man. It's been awesome. It's been fun to catch up, and I can't wait to actually do it again and just go hard into the weirdos we know from the dungeon.
Yeah, man. Anytime.
All right, buddy. Have a good night. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, George. Take it easy.
You too, sir.